everybody, we have the grand finals of this last chance qualifier. So we do know that Stan and Pettish here are both going to solidify their spot for the PCS Trophy Grand Championship next week with the $500 first place prize, $200 for second, $100 for third. So very excited to see both these players facing off now. Maybe this will be a rematch come the next tournament. We'll see. We're going to have a lot of number one and number twos in this tournament. There's going to be probably a lot of rematches as far as that's concerned. So without further ado, let's see who takes home this last chance qualifier. Pettish versus Stan. And we are about to get started here with game number one. Let's go. Stan versus Pettish.
All right, we're going to start off with Bannerman against the, I don't know what to call this, not Bannerman? Because Harrowing Bannerman is a deck that we're seeing more and more, and that is not what this is. This is like Tiana Harrowing, I guess is what I want to call it.
I mean, is this just like a bit? All right, do we make some sort of cool combination with like a card plus Harrowing, like Darrowing?
I was going to call it like Hecarim Rally or something. Because even, like, there are so many micro synergies within this deck, like Tiana and Harrowing, Lucian and Hecarim. The fact that Hecarim, having the Spectral Riders come out, actually feels into the Lucian level.
Tarrowing?
Yeah. Did you say what?
Tarrowing. Tiana and Harrowing. Tarrowing.
No.
Hey, I was with a shot.
Okay, check this out. Are you ready? Hecarim Harrowing. Harrowing.
Oh, man! Mind blown. Let's do it.
This is the Harrowing deck.
Oh, my God. And for anybody watching as well, just a reminder, because this is double elimination, Stan has one out. Stan, if he wins, wins. That's it. Tournament's over. Pettish is currently in the loser's bracket. If Pettish wins, Pettish has to play Stan again. That's not all, folks. We have one more match to play. If that is the case, best of three. So we'll see if Stan is able to just put the nail in the coffin here in this very first game.
And Pettish getting pretty aggressive here in the early game. That War Chef, such a pivotal card in being able to take these aggressive early trades. War Chef also in the deck of Stan, but not finding any copies. It's just going to block with the Hapless Aristocrat. But now, the entire board is actually set up for these Fleet Feather Trackers. We could see... Ranger's Resolve here would be a little bit awkward just because it stops your development for the turn. But it looks like Pettish does decide that this is valuable enough to go ahead and throw that one out.
Yeah, we do see the trades starting to come in here. Pettish kind of having the advantage so far as tempo is concerned. So I do like that play. Being able to get that Ranger's Resolve out, get those trades off, and keep the War Chefs and the Cythria on board. We'll see if it pays off here with Stan's next play here on turn 4.
I would assume that Pettish goes for an immediate Bannerman in order to heal this War Chef outside of the range of the Spiderling, but now he's actually going to go for the Fleet Feather Tracker, and I guess we're going to just have the Fiora challenge onto this 1/1.
So this is something that I'm not even mad about. It seems like... all right, so it seems like everybody's all of a sudden agreeing to be greedy with Bannerman. Like, is that just like the universal like accepted conclusion now? Like, you know what, we want at least 4 units for this Bannerman, otherwise it ain't worth it.
I mean, there's no reason to Bannerman the 2 units. All it would do is put War Chef outside the range of the Spider, but you do have so many challengers in hand that you might as well just line something else up. And here we're even going to see the War Chef buff onto the Fiora just to keep her at that 3 HP after all is said and done. And then Bannerman will turn her into a 5/5 alongside the War Chef, so she can even kill this Badger Bear on the following turn.
Yeah, I do really like this attack. We are still going to see, like you said, a buffed up Fiora with the Bannerman. We're going to have 4 units on board, or sorry, well, 3 plus the Bannerman is going to be 4 units total. So I do like how Pettish is playing this so far. We also see 2 Bannermen as well, so it's pretty good chance we're going to see back-to-back Bannermen. We're going to see one this turn and possibly on the next turn as well. Not sure if he's going to be able to get the Laurent down before the second Bannerman.
Concerted Strike does mean we are sort of potentially on this Fiora win condition.
God, that's a thing, huh? Like, I remember when Fiora first came out and everybody was like, Fiora's so OP, man. Like, this card's busted. Why is it in this game? And it's really not, but it's interesting when the win condition comes up because it's always at the most ridiculous random times.
Yeah, pretty much. I remember back when the game started and like we were going into open beta and War Mother's Call had just like pretty much everything in the War Mother's deck had gotten nerfed from sort of the pre-beta weekends. And my friends were all trying to convince me that Shen Fiora was just the best deck in the game now because that was apparently the best deck besides War Mother's Control. And I tried that deck and that deck sucked.
Yeah, yep, oh yeah.
Just way too many combat tricks. It was so easy to brick and there was nothing you could do about it. Deep meditation didn't exist.
Fiora Shen was good for like the first week of closed beta. And
yeah.
It wrecked everything because it was the only like super obvious win condition. And then everybody started figuring out like, oh, Atrocity is a card. We should play that and all this other stuff. And yeah, now we are where we are. So, wow. We'll see if we see another Bannerman come out here. It looks like we will, and that will leave exactly enough mana open for Concerted Strike as well. If anything crazy comes down on the side of Stan, I don't know. I mean, do we think... I guess the question is, will Stan be able to stave off this attack here? I think he will be able to live, so it's just a matter of if he can survive to turn... Well, basically to next turn so we can play a Harrowing, I imagine.
How does Stan always find both Harrowings? I was going to say there's one Ruination in this deck which could blow out the Bannerman mirror, and that's one of the reasons that we see Harrowing Bannerman kind of come up as a deck, is you have that blowout potential with your opponent, but doesn't actually find that. Instead, just consistently finding both Harrowings that he runs.
Yep, and finding both again. And honestly, like, it's funny. You'd think that would be bad, you know, to get two 9-cost cards like that. Like, if there's two Ruination, it would usually probably be terrible. But because of the aggressive nature of the deck and because of what the card actually does, it's actually pretty great to get two Harrowing, especially that, you know, you will be able to play one on turn 6 theoretically if you save the mana, and then on turn 7, depending on how the game goes. And it's looking like next turn is going to be a Harrowing.
I feel like you don't have much of a choice. My concern is that I don't think Pettish even has to block everything that comes out of this Harrowing. Like, I think he's going to be fine to just lose as few units as possible. Turn around, clap Stan's cheeks next turn?
No, he has to block.
Yes, does he have to block everything, though?
He needs to block at least two things, I think.
And I think it's very possible that we see two challenges coming out of Stan.
Oh,
but Stan does have the Concerted Strike as well.
Well, the Fleet Feather, unfortunately, doesn't really do much. Because it's only 2 attack. It can't actually kill anything on the field, which is actually a pretty big deal. Does Fleet Feather get Challenger with Harrowing? It does, right?
It doesn't look like it's got Challenger.
No?
Which is weird because it gets Challenger for Petty Officer.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that. So that's kind of weird it doesn't get it for Harrowing. I wonder if that's intended or not. I think the rationalization was that Petty Officer actually hits the board after the Swiftwing is summoned, whereas
that
everything...
doesn't make any sense.
I remember reading something with that, and that's what it said. So I might be wrong, but with this case, everything's actually hitting the board at the same time as... with the Harrowing, so I don't know.
Did you hear that from the Legends of Runeterra anime, where the rules are as closely followed as the Yu-Gi-Oh anime?
Oh,
where your
we all
giant
know.
Soldier of Stone attacks the moon to make it low tide so that all the sea monsters don't get deep anymore.
Hey, we all know Yu-Gi-Oh is incredibly accurate to the show. What are you talking about? Don't ruin our... Just like saying Santa Claus isn't real, man. What's wrong with you?
So if I saw this correctly, if Pettish doesn't block anything, he goes down to 4. And then doesn't actually... No, okay, I was going to say... definitely doesn't have lethal next turn thanks to the Badger Bear coming out. Actually can Concerted Strike through the Bear, but then, kind of gets blown up by that single combat next turn.
Yep.
I think it's a little more likely to develop the Protege, pull a couple of those to the side. I'm pretty sure with the way things work out currently, Pettish will have lethal next turn. Stan has the single combat to try and stop it, but Pettish will have the Concerted Strike to shut that down. And unless Stan can top deck a Miracle, Pettish should be taking this one.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Pettish could opt to summon a unit next turn. It looks like Pettish is not seeing lethal. Otherwise, I don't think this block would go in. Or actually, I guess this block technically doesn't matter because the War Chefs will still live, so he's just saving a little bit of damage to face here, which I do like. Like, why take more damage when you can not? But it looks like no, he's going to go ahead and pull it back, and he's going to go down to, what did you say, 4? Did you do that math right? Did you do that math right? Yes, you did. And yeah, here comes the concerted strike.
Oh, gonna go for that instead of the Laurent Protege, and that does mean that Stan can actually survive next turn with the single combat.
Yeah. Wow, so that's a little bit surprising that he decided to go with that line. Okay, we have a big Garen, though. Does that change anything?
I don't think so.
No, because that single combat's still going to be able to save. That's still going to be able to save Stan. And what Pettish is thinking right now is, okay, do I just open attack for the game here? And no matter what he does, I don't think he has a game.
Theoretically, for every unit you develop, your opponent just develops another unit. Mm-hmm. So is any unit that your opponent is developing really as good as your Laurent Protege or Garen? I feel like if Stan throws down like a Hecarim and a Hapless Aristocrat, that's probably the worst case scenario for Pettish. But I don't think that's enough to really dissuade him. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, Stan just has lethal next turn if he lives, right? The second Harrowing, there's nothing that Pettish is going to be able to do about that, especially given the fact that Stan will have the Relentless Pursuit alongside the Harrowing, which normally wouldn't matter because everything is ephemeral, but there are a couple of Grizzled Rangers in the death pool that will give you Badger Bears.
Wow, so... Wow. Yeah, and so I think that was just a miss lethal on the side of Pettish then, because they opted to play that concerted strike at the end of the turn there instead of waiting. Missed out on that little opportunity there, that window of opportunity, and now I think we're just going to lose to a Harrowing next turn.
I mean, it would have been... I definitely don't blame Pettish for making the play. You know, you decide, oh, let me just remove this blocker. My problem is that Laurent Protege essentially does the same thing, and then Concerted Strike on the next turn plays around things like single combat in the Concerted Strike. So Pettish just not really thinking about the outs that Stan could have, and Stan, you know, going to get rewarded for it. If I've mathed all of this out correctly.
Which we know is always the case on these casts.
Yeah, that's the word for it.
We usually sometimes get the math right, maybe.
My fingers were made for counting. Me brain not made for counting. I don't think it actually matters how Pettish lines up this War Chef. I'm pretty sure no matter what you like, you know, you throw the Senna in front of whatever's War Chef buffed, you throw this Vanguard Redeemer in front of the Garen, and then single combat it on over to something else. Looks like we're actually just gonna have the Senna single combat the Cythria instead. I think this clears out a little bit more of the board of Pettish. I knew there was a right way to line it up. And this means that Pettish will have 3 blockers to Stan's 6 attackers.
Not gonna be enough.
And Stan can even go for the scout attack.
Yeah.
And completely clear his board for the Harrowing.
Yeah. And this is just going to be game next turn. You know, and again, just, you know, 2 Harrowing. You don't want to see 2 Ruination. You do want to see 2 Harrowing exactly for this reason that we are about to see. Exactly 9 mana to Stan having the foresight to be able to save and bank the spell mana where needed. Play the first one, I think, was back on turn 6, I believe, where he played the first Harrowing. Now able to go to turn 9 and play another one with all the mana. And yeah, Pettish sees it. Super unfortunate. Super, super unfortunate. Oh, at least play the Genevieve and show Stan you got the Genevieve. Purify in hand. Purify. Is he playing Purify?
Yeah. One of them's playing Purify. Yeah, Stan's playing 1 Purify. I think we had talked about this yesterday about how obviously like it's in there for the Endure matchup, but it has so much potential to get so much potential to get value in other matchups as well that it really feels good to play in a meta where you do have a blowout matchup with it.
Well, and I think the reason why Pettish is sending that message too is I think Pettish was playing around it most of the game, which is unfortunate.
What does that even mean? Like, how do you play around that? Like,
I don't know. And that's my thought is like, okay, if you're playing around Purify, that means you're severely affecting the decisions you're making, like, on a consistent basis. And that feels really... that's just bad from, like, you'll probably lose the game trying to play around a card like that. But B, my head would hurt playing around a card like Purify.
My problem is I don't think he actually did play around Purify because we saw Cythria of Cloudfield buffed up to a 5/4 last turn by the War Chef, and a Purify would have turned her back into a 2/2. And Stan would have actually survived the attack from the War Chef and the Cythria at 1 HP.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, I don't know then. I'm curious as to why Pettish would have asked that then. Open to suggestions.
And now we have the most board-focused Ezreal deck with the Riptide Rex win condition. as well into a Bannerman deck. Like this is a very bad matchup for Pettish.
Yeah, wow. I mean, we are going to go ahead. It looks like Pettish is going to go ahead and keep the Grizzled Ranger. Also thinking about the Genevieve. Do you like keeping that high of a curve with this deck?
I really like going for Fleet Feather Bright Steel opener and mulling the Bright Steel and then keeping something like the Genevieve and the Grizzled Ranger. I mean, like, it has potential to work out for Pettish. My concern is that because Stan is specifically Bilgewater Ezreal, he is going to be playing the early board. You know, could get down some Jagged Butchers, some Dreadways, some Petty Officers, and really just put you down to a pretty low life total in the first couple of turns while you're waiting for your value units to come out.
And playing, and both the 2-drops being Bright Steels just feels really bad. I really am not sure I love that mulligan on the side of Pettish. I mean, I feel like his goal is just, okay, I'm going to go for like a turn 6 or 7, just kill, like with the Genevieve, with the Scout, pick off units on the board, just have, you know, so many attackers that it doesn't really matter what happens. But I got to agree. I like Fleet Feather into something like Bright Steel a lot better. It's just it's like one of the reasons why the deck is good in the first place, right? So, a little curious to see that mulligan on the side of Pettish. We do see the Fiora come down now, too.
I'm trying to think of how this plays out, because if Pettish plays Grizzled Ranger next turn, assuming Stan just passes here, if Pettish goes for the kill onto the barrel, obviously that really never works. You do get a spell out of Stan, but your worst case is that the spell is a Mystic Shot onto your Fiora, and that doesn't feel good. If Pettish goes for the Grizzled Ranger, Stan can Twisted Fate Gold card to kill the Fiora.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what's going to happen. He is hovering the Twisted Fate right now. Yeah, wow. Gold card with a keg on the field feels really good. Not going to lie. That's a damn good card.
Yeah, 3 damage removal. That's my shit.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, 3 is like that sweet spot in this game in general. I was gonna say meta, but just in the whole game, right? I mean, everything's based around, you know, get excited and gotcha and black spear and like all of these 3-cost removal. Everything's kind of based around that 3-cost removal.
Which begs the question: how long until Lulu is nerfed to make her supported ally a 4/3 instead of a 4/4?
Oh yeah, right. That's a good question, actually. I mean. Oh god, I could talk about Lulu for so long. We're gonna get so off track if we start talking about Lulu in this game. Oh god, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Anyways.
I wonder if Stan actually goes for the Make It Rain here just to save himself the 3 HP. You know, you can get the full 3 targets out of it against a deck like Bannerman. That's not that hard to do. I wonder. I'm also a little curious. Maybe we just see a block with the Twisted Fate. There's a fair amount of draw in Stan's hand. I think that he could actually level the Twisted Fate if it goes uncontested in a couple of turns, but of course we know it's not going to go uncontested for a couple of turns. There is that single combat in Pettish's hand as well as a couple of challengers, so it does fire out the Make It Rain, and Stan not looking like he's got a phenomenal next turn. We could just see an Ezreal come down. Oh, yeah. Thermo Beam's big.
Thermo Beam is pretty good right about now, especially when we know we're probably going to see a Genevieve come down. That's going to remove that Genevieve quite well. And we'll see. I mean, single combat. Do you prioritize the TF or the? All right, yeah. He obviously prioritizing the Ezreal here. Doesn't want the additional Mystic shot targets on any of his followers or Genevieve or really anything that he starts to throw down and develop on the board. Twisted Fate might hang around for a while though. We'll see if he drops this for rent to deal with it next turn.
One thing that I feel like doesn't get recognized enough is sort of overloading your opponent's removal. Wait a minute. Why are we attacking with this Twisted Fate?
Maybe for that reason, because maybe he's bluffing like, okay, maybe a Make It Rain and then I can get rid of your Badger Bear.
I guess.
But
I don't know. That seems a little.
It seems weird too. Yeah.
That was a ballsy play on the side of Stan, and it does work out for him though. So.
Hey, 2 damage is 2 damage, man.
Yeah.
Especially with an Ezreal deck.
Jesus, picks up Grizzled Ranger Genevieve.
Wow.
Talk about value.
That is good. Okay. Ooh. What do we do here? What do we do? All right, we're doing the Genevieve. Okay, I guess that makes sense. This Thermo Beam is gonna hurt a little bit. Now, do you just automatically? Yeah, you have to play the Thermo Beam here, right?
Yeah. I don't think there's any reason to give Pettish the opportunity to just kill my Twisted Fate for free. But I mean, Twisted Fate's dying no matter what, right? Yeah. Because the Laurent Protégé is there. But still, like, I don't want to give them the opportunity to get value with this Genevieve by killing my TF and then like still having the Laurent Protege kill the Jagged Butcher that I play, like, you might as well just Thermo Beam this Genevieve, right?
Yeah, you take a lot less damage doing that as well. Even if you played something like the Grizzled Ranger to get the additional unit down, the Genevieve's probably just going to pull both units anyways. So, yeah, I do like the Thermo Beam. Only going to take 7 damage on the side of Stan. And we're going to see if Stan can stabilize now, though. I mean, he does have a Grizzled Ranger to kind of combat some of this field. We do see... Oh, man. Oh, man. This is going to be... Do you just throw your whole hand on the field on the side of Pettish and just open attack?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's what I figured.
Stan's in a bit of a rough sort as well anyway, because this Bannerman does negate the Mystic Shot value that the Ezreal will generate, and Stan really can't develop enough blockers to sort of stave off what Pettish has coming for him. No matter how he plays this, he can only get 2 units down this turn.
Yeah, and Pettish, I really hope that we see Fleet Feather, followed by Brightsteel, followed by Bannerman. Maybe the Bannerman comes first if... Actually... Okay, I was going to say if you see the Ezreal company. Actually, going with the Genevieve, knowing that he's going to have to pull multiple units, I actually do like this because you Oh, no, after the Bannerman gets played...
This is disastrous. You still have Riposte Man on the side of Pettish. This is the blowout Pettish needed. And I think we're about to see this series tied up 1-1.
I was going to say, why not play the Bannerman? But yeah, having this Riposte, this is better. You just straight up get rid of the Genevieve, negating her ability to kill 2 units. And that just feels bad. Stan probably feels okay being able to remove 2 units right now, but not going to be able to after this Riposte comes down. And yeah, series is tied. So we already have ourselves a not 0-2 game. Pettish has tied it up 1-1. We'll see if Pettish is going to be able to take this to a second match here.
And there's nothing that Stan even could have done to play around this Riposte. If you just go ahead and pass, then Pettish just kills you with the Riposte on the following turn anyway. Yeah, I don't think there's anything you can top deck out of this. Yeah, Mystic Shot. Does Mystic Shot do it? Hold on.
Wait
no, I think he's
still good.
What? Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, so he's still A-okay. Would have been nice if he had priority to get that Riptide down, but unfortunately, the attack token on turn 8 is going to Pettish this time around, which is a big difference, being able to attack on evens in this matchup like this. So, and I honestly, it's something that I think a lot of people don't think of enough, especially maybe players that don't play as competitively. The even or odd turn, the turn that you have the attack token on, matters immensely in specific matchups, especially when you are going up. If you're an aggro deck and you're going up against something like a Riptide Rex, you want the ability to open attack on turn 8 so that you can head into turn 8 with an aggressive wide board like this and go in for the kill.
So the game that I came from previously, Force of Will, it has the concept of the coin from Hearthstone, where when you go second, you get this extra mana. And there was an entire Grand Prix that I was able to just completely dominate because I had built a deck that wanted to go second, whereas typically everybody wants to go first. So if my opponent wins the dice roll, I'm going second. If I win the dice roll, I'm going second. And having my deck built around the curve where I get the coin going second, I think it's really interesting that there doesn't, because of the way that the tempo works in Runeterra, there is no real concept of like first and second. You don't get to choose it anyway. There's no way to like build your deck around going first or second because it's randomized every time. And I'm wondering if that's like something that digital card games haven't explored enough from physical card games, where it's like being able to choose to go first or second, and is there a way that I can actually impact my deck building decisions within that?
Yeah, and it's that is a good point, because you can't choose currently in something like Hearthstone Legend of Runeterra. It's just random. So it'd be interesting to see if they do implement something like that. That's actually a really good point as far as like card game design is concerned, because that would change deck building a lot, especially in the competitive scene.
I was always surprised at the fact that like I was able to completely change the way that a deck functioned based off of the fact that like I want to be going second every single turn.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh was like that too. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh, it was a big, because I think Yu-Gi-Oh, it was you just couldn't attack first turn.
Yeah. And then eventually they changed it so that you didn't draw on the first turn as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you want to build your deck around specific stuff like that. And I think that would be interesting to work that into not just Legends of Runeterra, but I think that would make a game like Hearthstone even that much better too. And there's not a lot of times where I say there's things that can make Hearthstone a better game. Let's just throw that out there.
Because as we all know, shit sings the praises of Hearthstone so much. It's a perfect game in his mind. There's not a lot you can do to improve it.
Listen, I just want to put this on the record. I love Hearthstone. It was the first online game, as you know, a lot of other people that I played card game, and but it's we all know what's happened as of late, so it is what it is.
It was a pioneer.
Yeah, it's a pioneer in its own right. Now we have this game, which I absolutely adore, and Stan here starting out strong with a very wide field up against this this Swain TF deck. We'll see if he's able to get some damage in here.
Yeah, Pettish not having like a phenomenal hand does have the tools to stall out at the very least until this Swain does get to come down a little bit later. So has that going for them, but I mean, any damage feels like you're cheating when you're playing an Ezreal deck, and it's so easy to forget that this is an Ezreal deck because I feel like we don't actually see the Ezreal come up that often. It's 9 times out of 10, it's just like Riptide completely dominates your board, and then, oh yeah, I guess Ezreal will finish you off a couple turns faster than anything else in my deck would have.
Yep, and the Death's Hand coming out. Death's Hand, another card that I think is so good. I just love the card in general for what it does. It accomplishes a lot of different things for a lot of different strategies. So good to see it still played in a lot of decks. Not usually a 3 of. Loved it in Sejuani Swain, which we only saw 1 of in Duels of Runeterra. But it was in the winners lineup, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you get that going for you at least.
Yeah, we get that. But yeah, good to see it still hanging in there in some of these Swain decks, and we'll see what Pettish decides to do next. After that Death's Hand, deciding not to play the Dreadway deckhand just yet, passing it back over to Stan. Oh, warning shot. So we're taking 2 damage, warning shot to, okay, Black Market Merchant here.
Yeah, I would assume this is going to be followed up either by another Merchant or a Pilfered Goods. And Pettish has nothing. Pettish actually has a really weak hand. It's just, I mean, that was always sort of the downfall of any Swain deck, is like if you get clogged up on double Leviathan Swain in your opening hand, that's a very real possibility that you have to deal with, especially because you are running Riptide alongside Leviathan. Like, you have a very heavy-handed curve here in a deck like this.
Yeah, it is unfortunate to get 2 Leviathans like that. It's unfortunate even to draw a Swain, right? Because a lot of times people are maxing out on 3 Leviathans now, and if you're drawing a Swain, that's 1 less Swain you're going to get from a Leviathan. Just feels bad.
In theory, because like you can throw down, like you can Leviathan, get a Swain, then like use that Swain's Ravenous Flock, and then just research the same Swain, which is why I love the champion mechanic of Legends of Runeterra.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, because you actually do. It actually behooves you to want to play champion spells because they're that much better. Because you're basically getting free cards. You're getting an additional draw. If something like Maokai, you're actually shuffling a card back in. So there's actually an inherent way to counter mill decks too if they ever become a true thing. I know Maokai's technically a thing, but like, let's be honest, it's not technically a mill deck, right?
I feel like Maokai's about as close as we would get to a mill deck. And like with Deep existing, do you really want to play a mill deck? And that actually brings up an interesting point where, because we are so early on in the lifespan of Legends of Runeterra, I don't think they've made it clear just yet how they plan on handling sort of the future of the game in terms of like, are you going to go the Yu-Gi-Oh route where you just only play an Eternal format and eventually you just start banning some of the older cards that are too overpowered? Or do you follow suit with literally every other card game in existence where you have a rotation?
I personally, and I might be biased because I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! I actually like Yu-Gi-Oh! More than Hearthstone, personally. I might be biased, but I like the ban list better because I like being able to play with really older cards, like always, no matter what. And I think that opens a lot more deck strategies and possibilities. But it's a lot harder to manage, as we've seen with Yu-Gi-Oh! You kind of get some also crazy nuts busted strategies that are kind of hard to control. So.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know, man. Like, rotation is cool. My problem with rotation is I don't think we've ever seen a digital card game sort of continue to support their Eternal format.
Yeah. Like Wild and Hearthstone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a cool idea. And then people are like, but does anybody really play Wild?
Yeah, because like Legacy and Vintage and Magic still have their place, but a lot of that is like people were playing those sort of formats like 20 years ago. They're like, oh, I loved playing with these cards back then. And, even besides that, it's like, oh, yeah, well, my deck is worth like about as much as my car. You don't get that in a game like this. I don't know. I just feel like there's almost no interest in digital Eternal formats.
So just a reminder to everybody too, as we talk about some of these card game mechanics here. This is a double elimination tournament. So as we continue here with Game 3, as Stan continues to go super wide. Yeah, what the heck?
Both players got Bark Bees.
Yeah, that's but this is double elimination. So Pettish was in the loser's bracket. Stan was in the winner's bracket. If Pettish is able to take this game from Stan, we're not done. We're not done, ladies and gentlemen.
We have a whole nother best of 3.
A whole nother best of 3. So we'll see if Pettish is able to continue on here and bring it to a second match. Still not able to get these Leviathans down, though. And the attack is going back over to Stan. That is bad.
This is the, like, hands down worst feeling in any Swain deck, where your opponent has this overwhelming board presence. You have double Leviathan in hand, and you're going into turn 7.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, not only do I have to take this beating, but I do absolutely nothing this turn.
Yep. I mean, he's pretty much forced to play Swain next turn, no matter what he draws. And then he's forced to play Leviathan on his next turn. So it's I gotta agree, it's really bad. Oh god, and Riptide now too. That is terrible.
Pettish has a blowout turn 9. You know, the question is, do we get there and survive the open attack that Stan will have on 9 as well? Look at this. No cards can be played in his hand. Suddenly you're down to 3 against an Ezreal deck.
I don't think there's anything he draws now that can actually save him. I think Pettish is going to get taken out here.
I would have to assume so. Granted, I mean, Leviathan Swain is a powerful enough combo that Pettish could start to turn the tables here once he gets both of these cards down.
I love seeing... Okay, I love seeing what players do when certain cards come up and certain things happen, because Pettish keeps, like, hovering over, you know, the 3/8 drops in hand for like he's tilted. Like it's I would be tilted too if I got 2 Leviathan and a Riptide, and this Twisted Fate is not going to save him.
Hold on, it might. If you red card, you kill 2 units. No, we're just going to Leviathan and we're just going to Leviathan and surrender. I mean, at least blue card and see if there's anything that you can dig for. But I was trying to think of the possibilities. It doesn't really matter. Stan is your winner. Brazil bringing it home in this PCS last chance qualifier. Will be moving on to the tournament next weekend, as will Pettish, because we are inviting both finalists. And now we get into the good stuff. I want to talk about this winners tournament, the qualified, the invitational, whatever you want to call it. There are a lot of big names in this one. We got Stan, we got Fresh Lobster, we have New Meal, sort of the newcomer, at least to us, that has completely blown us away with her play in that Heimer deck. I am a little curious to see what she brings without Heimer being around, as she did bring that to the Golden Poro tournament the week after as well. So I'm curious to see what she can actually bust out once this Heimer is gone, because that was the deck that she really piloted in an impressive manner. Does that skill translate somewhere else, or is this a Heimer one-trick player?
All right, congrats to Stan. Bringing it home for Brazil. Gonna take home this last chance qualifier, and gotta love to see it. I've seen a lot of Stan as of late, doing really well in a lot of these Legends of Runeterra tournaments, so gonna be exciting to see him in the Grand Championship next week. Gonna go head-to-head with so many good players for that $500 prize. So, as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I will see you at that tournament this weekend, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.